It is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question that we got in. And that was really, how does the narcissist rub off on us? How do we begin to become like the narcissist or the psychopath who we are hanging out with, who we are associated with? If we are in proximity, working, living in a relationship with this type of person, can we adapt or adopt their personality traits and really become disordered ourselves? And before we get started on the video here today, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently made a donation to the channel. Particularly, we have a lovely viewer in the Louisiana area of the United States, a beautiful area in the southern part, really noted for its culture, its music, its food, its history. Very rich area of the United States in the Louisiana area. And much love to you. Love you. Thank you so much for your viewership. Thank you for your continued support and input. It is very much valued here on the channel. As you know, it's interactive here. I do read the comments, I do receive your questions, and I do try to address those, especially that are really frequent or that I think will be of benefit for you. And so we have a wonderful question in today, and that is really, can this pathological or malignant individual who's got some personality traits or quirks, can they really rub off on us? Can we start to become like them? Can just to adapt, adjust, and get along with them and create a sense of belonging, just like social psychology, how do we adapt elements of this person? How do we begin to mimic them? How do we subconsciously begin to adapt and adjust our own internal guiding system, our own subconscious, and rather than honoring that, begin to take theirs in order to get along and belong and adapt to that sort of inner circle? How does this become part of our personality and then maybe on down the road become a problem for us, where we then have to revisit our outlook on the world, our perspective, what we hold as sacred, our priorities, and really look at ways of maybe reevaluating how we are living our lives, looking at our personality, which is really a set of beliefs, behaviors, emotions that are pre-programmed or preconditioned. So just like when you get a computer, it is pre-programmed with Windows or Microsoft or Apple or whatever it is you have. So if you can see the similarity between when we are with or raised by this type of individual, we do have that programming installed. In other words, it gives us our functioning, it gives us our outlook. It helps us to search and navigate the world, and it takes us places. It's like it's like with the undergirding undertow to who we are, and our temperament is really moods that have been repeated or memorized over and over and over again. So our temperament becomes a mood, which becomes over time becomes a personality. So it is malleable, meaning it can be adapted, adjusted. There is such an experience in neuroscience science called neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the neurology, the wiring and firing, and the neurochemicals, the neurohormones, to learn, to create new synaptic connections, to evolve and to grow as a person. And the wonderful, miraculous thing is that you do have control over how you develop, how you grow, what genes or what emotions you basically interrupt and reprogram and recondition yourself. So you might have always been an angry person, based on maybe the family that you were raised in, and you learn to react or mimic in like kind, very much like silly putty. I always think of it like, do you remember that little silly putty? It's like a clay, and you would put it on the comic, and then it would take a picture of that which you had pressed it onto. It's very much imprinting or conditioning or programming is very much like that. It gives us a blueprint. It gives us a template for which to see the world. But like silly putty, when you pull it and stretch it, you can pull it more this way, you can squish it out that way, you can erase it with your thumbs, you can really begin to recondition that outlook, that blueprint, that template. And the mind is very much the personality, and the neural networking is very much that in that manner. But it's really whether you decide to take the helm and develop emotional mastery and say, okay, enough is enough. I can see the errors of my ways. I can learn. I can see maybe where I have become to adapt and adjust to a malignant narcissist or a psychopath where I had become like them. And believe me, the narcissist and psychopath love to have little fledglings of themselves. In other words, it is a source of supply to them. It is a source of, feeding of their narcissist ego. In other words, they need this to survive. They need this to thrive. So, if they see that you, especially in the advent of the psychopath, when they see that you are letting your guard down and thinking like them in pathological or self-harming ways, in other words, ways that aren't empowering to you but disempowering and leading to you being disenfranchised, they're like, oh goody, yay, my overpowering technique, my psychological manipulation is working, and they are on the path to destruction. So they're very much to see this, and they're very much pleased when they see people losing it, snapping, becoming maladaptive. So it is very important to become aware of this and to really put the brakes on and then get into the state of metacognition where you have the ability to take a look at your thoughts, your behaviors, emotions, and say, okay, wow, maybe there are some red flags in the relationship right now, and maybe I'm feeding the fire. Maybe I'm fanning the flames. Maybe I am becoming too much like this person in order to get along, or because I want the relationship to work so much that I'm developing, pathological narcissistic traits. I'm developing somatic narcissistic traits. I'm becoming to be like them, to fit along, I'm beginning to think in the patterns of the psychopath in order to get along, adapt, and adjust. In other words, I am pleasing them, and I'm mimicking their energy and like energy. In other words, my neurons, my empathy neurons, the mirror neurons, which gives us the ability to feel, relate, and understand and connect with others emotionally, empathically, we do have something called the mirror neurons, which begin to feed the same chemicals. It's kind of like when you see a pregnant woman, you begin to kind of feel her, feel what the body must feel like, feel how uncomfortable it must be. Or we see men who begin to gain weight when their spouse gains weight in pregnancy. The motor neurons are going. So you become, you kind of go through it with them. So, you can go through narcissism with people. You can go through psychopathy with people. You can begin to adapt and adjust and kind of lose your sense of emotional mastery. And, your personality might take that turn. You might take that, detour. You might take that, back road while you're with these individuals. That's why it's so important to go no contact, not surround yourself with people who do not exemplify the traits, the personality characteristics, the language, the music, the behaviors, the lifestyle, the sort of values that you do not want to have rooted in yourself. And so it's very much like this. As they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In other words, you can become very much like your family. There's, you might be a spitting image of your parents. You might be very much like them. The apple doesn't fall from the tree, but the apple is not the tree. In other words, the tree that has the deep roots, which are going down, for miles or, however long those roots are going down, how thick the trunk is of the roots, how intertangled the roots are, and how firmly, like a tree, if you're ever to, try to push over a tree, you can feel it doesn't fall because of the roots. You can, try to push it and you can feel how stronghold a root is there. But it might have some tangent roots which are not as strong. But, and then you have an apple tree, and then the apple, in other words, you can be very much like this person who you are a family member with or work with or are married to. But it doesn't mean that you are the tree. You might not have the same roots. Your roots might, or you have the capacity or the potential, you have the seeds of the tree, but it doesn't mean that you have to, plant the seeds of narcissism in your personality, fan it, nurture it, water it, become like the narcissist. You have the choice. You need to then see that you are separate and distinguished, and you are no longer, perhaps formatting your life, blueprinting your life, templating your life after them. You're getting new values. You're in touch with the fact that you don't want to live this way. You don't want to live with a sense of entitlement. You don't want to live with a sense of pathological selfishness. You don't want to live with a lack of empathy. If you have the ability to learn this and then learn, and adapt and nurture new personality traits and experiences within yourself. Such is neuroplasticity. So I hope this video does help, and I hope you understand that you have the control to really adapt and adjust your personality traits, how you treat people, and whether you really have that. Now, a true narcissist, a true psychopath, has neural wiring and chemistry that they cannot adapt and learn. And furthermore, they don't feel that they have done anything wrong, so they're not oftentimes going to change. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.